Welcome to Project Ocean's Coffee Convo, where mental health topics are unpacked, one cup at a time. Today's topic is on emotional first aid. So our first question of today is, what is emotional first aid and what does it mean to you? So if anyone is comfortable sharing, we're not going to do a popcorning kind of style. It's more like if you feel uncomfortable unmuting or comfortable like typing in chat, like whenever you're ready, you can. And I can start off first. So for me, emotional first aid means kind of like learning that, okay, I'll start off with a quote. We always say this in Project Ocean, like you can't pour from an empty cup. And I feel like that relates to emotional first aid a lot. Like you can't really help people if you yourself are also kind of like struggling, you know? So I feel like emotional first aid means like you are also taking care of yourself. You're making sure you have like all the resources that you need. And then when you go out to help people, whether it's your friends or like strangers or family, you have those resources handy that you use for yourself and you now use it for other people. So for me, it means like kind of like just having empathy but also realizing that empathy requires like kind of replenishment, and that if you want to give empathy towards people, you have to also understand that you have to take care of yourself as well.
Yes, Erin, exactly. I love that analogy. I actually heard that recently from Kashima, I think. I wanted to add on to Audrey's point on what emotional first aid really is. And kind of like similarly with her, I kind of have a quote in my head too, that like you shouldn't feel bad for like feeling bad. And I remember once someone told me that I was really kicking myself because I wasn't in the best place like mentally, and it was affecting like other areas of my life. And I was at first like, it's easy to be upset with yourself and to like, you know, not have that self-empathy. But like someone told me, they were like, you know, it's like being sick. You wouldn't kick someone who has a cold down for like not feeling the best, for not like being at their 100% healthiest. So why would you kick yourself down? And that really stuck with me. And so like with emotional first aid, I really think it's about not only like connecting with others, but also like healing those wounds inside of yourself. When you're like feeling like judging yourself or not having that compassion that you would treat other people with. So why not apply it to yourself and be kind? And then like Audrey was saying, you'll be able to pour and fill up your cup even more, because it takes a lot of energy to always be there and to be emotionally like receptive to people. And so you need your own coffee too. You need that boost too. And so that's what it means to me.
Oh, go Kyla.
Okay, for me, when I heard the word emotional first aid, I don't usually like hear it. I think that was like one of the first times I ever heard that phrase being mentioned. And the first thing that I thought of was like self-care. It's like what you guys were mentioning, all about like putting yourself first so that you can help others. And I lost my train of thought, but yeah, it's all about, for me, I was just thinking about self-care and like doing things for me and focusing on myself first so I can help others. And another thing that came to my head was because I was watching this video about like ADHD, and they were mentioning about making your own like menu, I guess you can say, of things that, you know, help you like relax and care for yourself, so that it's kind of like when you think about first aid, it's like that emergency thing that you need to, you know, have that resources available for yourself to help yourself. And
Yeah, I agree. I think I think similarly to like focusing on like what we need, like I guess similar to, we talk about CPR in our CPR training. So like I guess noticing those warning signs when someone like needs help and trying to see how we can help others too. And so just like not ignoring it, not being afraid to like bring up like, hey, I noticed notice this about you, or you've been feeling down lately, and trying to figure out how you can help others with their mental health.
Yeah, Chanel, go for it. And thank you, Jennifer, for sharing.
I think I'm gonna hop on what Kyla and Jennifer said when it comes to self-care. So I also have never heard of emotional first aid before, but I like thinking of it in like steps, because you know how when you're in first aid training, or if you've ever been to first aid training, they give you like a certain amount of steps or a procedure as to how certain things go. Like if you have to give CPR to someone and something like that. For emotional first aid, you could think of it as recognizing certain signs within yourself or within others. and just realizing, okay, wait, maybe you should like take a step back, or like even recognizing it in yourself and saying, okay, maybe I should take a break this weekend and focus on some self-love or self-care, and just realizing that you should also take care of yourself too and others if you're seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely, Chanel. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm seeing like a pattern amongst us that like recognizing what it is that you need inside of yourself and really going for self-care and self-love and realizing that what you need for yourself and others is also very important. So I really love that theme I'm seeing. Is there anyone else who wanted to share before we move on to the next question? Oh yeah, go for it.
I mean, I don't think I have anything else much to say for like what it means, aside from what anyone else said. But I think one thing that you talked about, Mylea, was like when you talked about, I actually forgot it, but I know that it was when you were talking about it that this came into my head. But it was, I was in another call and they said, what do you think of when I say the word like physical health? And the words are all positive. And then when they said, how about mental health? Then everyone was associating mental health with like more negative words. And so I think that kind of like goes with what Kyla was saying and Chanel. Like we never heard emotional first aid together. It's usually like physical first aid. So yes, I hope that made sense. But yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lenore, for sharing that too. I agree. I feel like there's really that emphasis on physical health. Like we're always all about like, even growing up, there's a kind of sports out there. You see it on TV, you see it everywhere. There's not as much like emphasis on like taking care of your mental health the same way, which I think is really important, which is why we're here today. But yeah, I definitely see that too. Thank you so much for sharing.
Our second question of today is, why is emotional first aid important? And I consider it important, similar to like how we were talking about before. Like Aaron's saying, you need to put the mask on yourself before you help your child. Because the truth is, even if you were putting like that oxygen mask, for example, like on your child, if you are like, this is what happens, you're not getting enough oxygen, you're going to pass out. So you end up not really helping anyone. So the same thing, similarly with like emotions. If you yourself are feeling like super heavily stressed, super heavily like afflicted by things, and you're trying to help someone else with your problems, well, when are you going to work on yours too? So yeah, I think it's important to kind of recognize that you can help people, but you can also take care of yourself.
So for me, it's kind of similar to what you were saying too. And like, I also kind of said it earlier, like in order to help others, you need to help yourself. And another thing I wanted to bring up was like, if you want to be your best and reach, your best potential, it's also important to be able to take care of yourself and, give that emotional first aid to yourself. And also when you're not your best and you're stressed and you're just feeling so down, not being able to take care of yourself and just constantly helping others. I think it kind of goes with what you were saying earlier with the whole, you can't pour from an empty cup or something like that. I don't know if I'm saying the right quote, but yeah, you'll just spread that negativity and stress and you're making it worse for everyone. So you should definitely start off with helping yourself.
I think emotional first aid is important because I think the name actually is really good for what you're talking about. Because with first aid, it's the first response to someone who has an injury that's physical, whereas emotional first aid would be first response to something that is more of a mental injury or mental trauma. And it's important that it gets done immediately and you don't delay, because that could either negate like negative side effects that may occur. Like if you're not feeling good and you don't take care of it right away, or you don't address the problem, this could lead into a bad spiral. And I find it really important that the idea that first aid is applied to mental stress, mental trauma stress, mental health. There we go. I got it. Anyway, that's what I thought.
Thank you. So have you ever experienced or seen like like a lack of emotional first aid and what happened. I also want to respond to like Derek real quick, or Madrid. I can't tell which one's the first name, which one's the last name.
It's Derek is my first name, but you can call me Madrid if you want.
Oh, okay, Madrid. That's pretty cool. I definitely like agree with what you're saying. Like definitely with mental health, like the only way that we can practice it is if we recognize the mental health of like each other as well as like ourselves, you know. So I feel like this goes into this question. So a time where I experienced a lack of emotional first aid was kind of when I was like extremely stressed during midterms, and I knew someone was going through a really tough time, and I really wanted to help them. And I really did my best to, but I was also struggling with midterms that were kind of stacked on the same day. And this person was like really like having a bad day, like crying and stuff. On like the night before, and it was already like 2 a.m. and I was still studying. I was like, oh my god, what do I do? And I was telling them, dude, I really want to listen to you. I really want to be here for you, but I'm also like extremely stressed with like my midterms tomorrow. I didn't want to ignore them because I feel like when someone is going through like a mental health like kind of crisis or problem, you kind of have to address it kind of immediately. You know, there's like a time limit for things. But I'm not like a strict time limit, but I mean like when someone is going through something, if you address it too late, you might, you know, maybe not help as much. But this person, urgency. But this person reminded me that like, you know, school comes first, and he was willing, or he told me like, hey, we could talk about this like another time. And I made sure to talk about it like as soon as my finals ended the next day. Because I felt like an urgency to talk like that exact same night at like 2 a.m. But they told me, you know, your midterms are literally tomorrow. So I feel like when something like that happens, you kind of have to recognize your priorities first. And as much as we want to help people, and we should, we also have to recognize like we also have to take care of our family. We also have to take care of school. Maybe we have to take care of our responsibilities and stuff. And kind of the part of balancing like all of that, I feel like is also part of emotional first aid.
Yeah, Audrey, I think you make a really good point. It's you watch someone who is going through a mental health crisis and you want to help, but not often. Sometimes you don't have the resources, the time, or the even the skill to help. It's interesting because as I understand, if I relate this to actual first aid, you may not always be able to help them immediately, but sometimes you can direct them to the resources that would help them, or even just promise to help them later on, or address it when you do have the time. You know, not always, like if someone is injured on the side of the road, you may not be able to stop right there because of other cars or danger. There's a clear and present danger, but you can possibly go down the road, find somewhere safe, and then address it when you do have the chance. And I think it's the same for mental health, and it's important to recognize that it's not, it is important to help people, but it's not what would be a good word? Man, I'm stuttering again. But it's not the end all be all. There's only so much you can conceivably do at times. You know, there are limits. Yeah, I thought it was a good idea.
And also to jump on that and also respond to like Audrey's, is that I guess that also brings a question of like boundaries, and also being transparent with them to let them know that like, yeah, you're going through something as well, and you won't have like as much time that you can dedicate for them because of everything you're going through. And so like, yeah, as Derek was mentioning, like asking, or what's the word, like directing them to someone who's like more able at the moment to help them too. So yeah. I could also share like a little experience that I've had where I have had like a lack of emotional first aid. I feel like that kind of happens a lot with burnout, but I'm just gonna share one experience back in sophomore year when I was taking on a lot of things. I had a job, I was in a research lab, and then I was even taking OChem, organic chemistry, which was such a bad semester for me because it was definitely hard for me to handle everything. I was not able to handle OChem with all of my other responsibilities. And so that led to a cycle of me like not doing well at all and like isolating myself from friends and family so then I could get the work done, but then also avoiding the tasks. So then, because it's so stressful, so I want to do something else kind of to, kind of avoid that pain and like struggle a little bit. So it was not a good time for me back then. And I definitely had a lack of emotional first aid. I was avoiding friends and family, and so, yeah, it was just a negative cycle. And that was like the first and only class I've ever failed in my life. So it was bad, but yeah, that's what happened. And I've learned that it's really important to, treat yourself, get that emotional first aid, have that list of self-care and take care of yourself, because definitely reach out to friends and family. I might have sidetracked the conversation a bit.
I want to really respond to that real quick. Number one, you really matter. Like, this is so annoying. I'm a really cheesy person. But I always try to remind people, like, everyone is really human. Like, that phrase sounds so stupid, but like, really, you and everyone else are like a lot more human than you think you are. And, I mean, what you like said, that's a really huge stack of responsibilities. Like I can't even imagine, so like recognizing like your priorities and stuff, but also recognizing kind of what Derek was saying, like you have limits. Limits doesn't also apply to like helping people. I feel like it also applies to yourself. Like recognize, maybe I shouldn't take on all of this plus a job plus an internship plus, let me just take on another project too. But definitely, regardless of not whether you pass or you don't pass a class, like none of that really is like just like suggesting anything of your worth. Like no matter what, at the very end of the day, we all have intrinsic worth. And I think the fact that you try to handle all those responsibilities says a lot about your character. Like the average person could not do that. I could not do that. I would immediately just cry. So yeah, definitely. And I'm really happy because I know you also personally, Kyla, that you are like a very helpful person and you always go out of your way to help people. But also, you have to take care of yourself first, and I really appreciate that.
I can share a story.
Go ahead.
So, similar to Kyla's story. So you said you're like, oh, this is the first class I've ever failed, and I can see that you're like a little disappointed, but I have not failed one class. I've failed many, and it's really interesting because it happened during a specific period of my education where I did take on a lot of stuff and try to balance a lot of things, and it kind of does spiral where you get involved in like what might be. For me, it was too much. It was actually, I was taking on too big a workload, kind of similar. And once you take on such a huge workload, you then do poorly across the board with all your workload, with things that are not involved with school. Everything kind of starts to suffer because you just can't physically, or not physically, but you can't manage it all. So what I would do very frequently is I would like take on a lot of classes, a lot of hard classes, and then I would like get to final season. I'm like, oh no, my grades aren't very good. So I would like pick and choose. I'm like, well, I think I can pass this class with a D, and I think I'm going to fail this one, so I'm going to drop this. And it was really silly because I would do this recurringly, and then I would get really upset with myself. I get like emotionally turbulent, and then next semester or next year, I just do it again. But that cycle, I'm glad because I realized that the fix for that cycle for me was that I would just start taking on smaller workloads so that I can actually do other things that I enjoy more. And actually it's led to better work in my school. So my better performance in my school because I'm doing less and I'm doing other things that are actually personally relevant, personally important to me. And it's kind of fueling my school in the same way. So it's kind of interesting that how something unrelated to school still improved my school, and actually devoting all my time to school was worse for it. But I understand. Don't worry. I think you, considering the situation, I think you did very gracefully. So good job. Pretty good job. Yeah.
Yes. Definitely want to say to you too, Derek. Dude, I'm so freaking proud of you, like, for being able to recognize that and like actually do something about it. I feel like the first part about emotional first aid is that you have to recognize that there are problems going on. You kind of have to admit it to yourself. And I think that's the hardest part, honestly. Like, I also failed the class. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, dude. It's not like a woohoo, we all failed together, but it's like a damn, man.
It's kind of fun now. Now that I've failed it and I like recognize why, I'm like, oh, okay, now it's like a notch in my belt. But yeah,
definitely. Like now we're like, oh, we can say in hindsight, but like back then, dude, I feel like it's a huge hit to pride. It's a huge hit to like you like feeling academically like okay and stuff.
Right, there's like a lot of shame in it, especially if you're a well-performing student and you fail a class. You're like, oh no, I'm not a great student anymore. But you like still are. It's just now you've done the full range of what it means to be an academic or a student.
Yeah, like definitely.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think it also humbles some people. It humbled me.
Oh, me too.
I got really humbled.
True, and I mean it's through making mistakes that you're able to like improve on yourself too, right? And see what things are working and what isn't, and adjusting.
Yeah, I agree. I like that we kind of not sidetracked, but like talked about this, because part of what we might talk about, I'm not sure about today, but eventually, like something that we brought up in Project Ocean was that emotional first aid also relates to hustle culture. When you're in a college setting, especially under capitalism, hustle culture is such a real thing. Like you always feel like you always have to be doing something, you always have to be busy, you always have to be getting X, Y, and Z internship. Like how dare you not graduate on time? How dare you like not get a job right after college when everyone else is in like your mind? I definitely feel like a lot of that plays into it. But definitely I think in recognizing that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter when you graduate, number one, it just matters that you just get it in the first place. It's so hard to get get a degree or anything. And also recognizing that there is no real contest, there is no real timeline to do things. You should always do what's best for you, and that timeline looks different per person.
I think it's I totally agree. When you say that it's not a competition and that there's no although it's like pitched as a 4-year program, sometimes that's not the case. And actually it's probably worse that it's a 4-year program. There's a lot of enrichment you can get from taking school a little bit longer, a little bit slower. And I personally had to realize to myself, I was like, I hate rushing. I really do. I dislike it. It makes me anxious. It makes me feel bad. Everything goes poorly. I want to take my time on things and do them correctly. So for me, it was realizing I'm not going to graduate in 4 years. It's going to take longer, and it might be a bigger time in school, a bigger investment. But I know if I do it correctly, according to my tastes and my values, it's going to be that much better for me. It's going to be enriching, and it's going to be a strong strong foundation to back up everything else. Whereas I think someone who might commit to what it's pitched to them, that they might not like it, but they'll soldier through. I almost feel bad because I'm like, well, are you going to enjoy this like you really should, or could you get more out of it? So, but I totally agree. I'm like, nah, we're not doing 4 years anymore. We're taking my sweet time. I'm going to get a 20-year degree. No, I'm kidding. As long as it takes.
All right. Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Ooh. We'll go on to the next question real quick. And I'm happy that we talked about that. I feel like at least 3 of us, I feel like maybe Adriana's a freshman, maybe Richard might relate. Yeah, that's a really big thing. We always talk about C's degrees as jokes, but we never talk about the F's. We never talk about the withdrawals. We never talk about like actually leaving class and like dropping stuff. We're just like, oh yeah, I'm doing okay. But our next question of today is, why don't we practice emotional first aid more often?
I think it's because of the whole taboo with like mental health and emotional health. Like we don't value that as much as our physical health. I think that's a big one.
I feel like, not that I want to assume, but it sounds like from your experiences, I feel like it's because you have so many expectations and pressures on you that you feel like you can't focus on yourself. You have to focus on kind of going through a checklist to make other people happy. And I feel like that's also a theme we have for emotional first aid, because like at the end of the day, like this is really your life. And of course, you know, we want to make our loved ones proud. We want to make our friends proud and stuff like that. But you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, are you making yourself proud? And I think that's the biggest question you could ever do. And I really admire you. I mean, you even just messaged me a bit like before this event asking about classes. I don't know you too well yet, but I think you're a really hard worker. And I want you to know, like, no matter what you put yourself through, you're always going to be worthy as like a student. And yeah, just like remember to make yourself proud. Remember to take care of yourself before you know, you worry about other people. Richard says, I totally share y'all's sentiments. For the previous question, especially with the whole deal with acceptance of failure. So the next question is, what is your favorite strategy for practicing healthy emotional first aid?
I would say just like, for me, it's like just doing things that make me happy. It's like doing my hobbies, like, I don't know, playing guitar, singing for a bit. That's some of the ways that makes me happier. And just talking with family and friends too.
I would say for mine, carpool karaoke. If you're ever in my car, I always make everyone do carpool karaoke. I don't care who it is. And the reason why I do this is because, like, I feel like you gotta sing your emotions sometimes. I don't care, like you sound quote unquote bad, like, nah, dude, the whole point is that you're just like being yourself. But I feel like for me, practicing emotional first aid means like kind of taking care of my mental health, and it is also enjoying the things I do. Singing is one of them, but also kind of like if I am planning to like have like a deeper discussion with someone, I kind of like need to build up into it. I don't need to, like, it's kind of hard and kind of weird to just suddenly be like, tell me your deepest, darkest secrets. Like, I'll be like, oh, okay. Honestly, I do this kind of subtly, but not so subtly sometimes. Low-key, like when we're singing karaoke and stuff, I'll add like a sad song and I'll be like, like, do you guys feel the same thing? I'll be like, let's talk about feelings. So, you know, I'll be more subtle about it. It's not gonna say that, let's just open up about something. But when I feel like maybe someone is going through something, especially if they're in my car, I feel like you have to create an intimate environment for you to be able to like share that. And I don't know. I think my friend once said this to me. He said, like, you gotta vibe with someone before you can just like open up to someone. And I feel like that also relates to emotional.
That's pretty good. I like the carpool karaoke. That I like to sing in my car too. I don't know if I would call it carpool karaoke. It's like screaming the lyrics of Tequila Time over and over again. But you know, we're close. It's in the ballpark. My strategy for, let me read the question one more time. It helps jog my memory. What is your favorite strategy for practicing healthy emotional first aid? Yeah, I'm really bad at the strategizing part. See, I got a lot of great ideas, but never do I do it consistently. I really like when I can recognize that I'm just too stressed. I'm carrying a lot of stress on me. That's a good starting point. Once I figure out that I'm in a point where I'm like, oh, I'm just stressed right now. There's something on my mind that is getting in the way of other stuff that I need to focus on. There's something that needs to get addressed. Then I can like kind of figure it out, and from there it's a little easier. But when I am stressed, I do like to, there's two things I really like. One, I like to just not do anything at all. I just like to sit down and like stare at the wall and just like not touch my phone really. That's what I really like to do. And like when I do that, I just like, it's like a reset button, you know? I'm just like chilling there, and after like 10 or so minutes, I'm just like, oh man, I feel great. I feel like a wave washes over me. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is nice. What was I doing before this? And that's one good one. And then the other one is I like exercising. If I like go for a run, I'll come home and I'll just immediately feel 1,000 times better. No, not. No, I'm not. No. Thank you, but I don't think that title applies to me. I'm like a workout surf, maybe. Work in the fields, slowly cultivating the game. But Yeah, working out, really running I really love, because once you're done with it, if you're in the middle of doing it, you kind of, your mind kind of goes pretty empty. And then when you're done with it, you just have like your whole body kind of relaxes physically. So I really like that feeling. A lot of physical relaxation kind of ends up helping my mind too. So those are my strategies for myself. But yeah, you gotta notice it first. That's the hardest part.
So the next question is, how can we begin practicing emotional first aid, after experiencing a hurtful or draining situation? So something that is not so chill.
I think, as Derek was mentioning, kind of like noticing what you're feeling first, and like trying to break down that emotion is always a good first step, or at least how I feel for myself too. Because like sometimes you're confused about what exactly you're feeling, and being able to pinpoint that can help you better, apply the first aid to yourself.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about right now, if a situation that I feel unsure about happened to me, or I'm not sure how I feel about it, sometimes it's really good. I don't really like talking. That's not exactly my favorite thing, but sometimes when you talk to someone, you relay the situation, and you say like, oh yeah, last week I saw so and so, he said this to me and I did not like it, or as opposed to, oh, I like that. That's a good starting point to figure out, oh wait, yeah, this bugs me, this bothers me, or I feel a certain way about this, or just the question of how do I feel, but not how do I feel, but do I feel good about this, or do I feel bad? Because that kind of brings it to attention. Is this something, it narrows it down very quickly. But if you ask how I feel, you kind of might get lost. You might wander thinking about like this, that. Yeah, it's really good.
I feel like what you said made me think of the standard, how are you kind of question. We're all like good or like okay, and then like that's kind of the end of it. Or like when they ask you to elaborate, you go like, yeah, maybe not the greatest, and then but there's that, like, I'll say 9 out of 10 people will be like, how are you? Good. And I'll be like, okay. But like there's that one person that actually tries to elaborate it, and I feel like that one person is someone I'm extremely thankful for. I feel like after like experiencing something kind of traumatic, I feel like it's one, I'm in a really like hurt state, so it's hard for me to reach out people even if I want to. But I also feel like for me personally, venting about it with someone is what helps me the most. Feeling supported by like my loved ones, whether it's like family member or a close friend, or like my partner, or even like therapy, like just someone I trust who's there to listen to me. And I think a big part of me feeling better is just making me feel listened to. I think there's something powerful in literally just someone like sitting in a room with you, maybe crying with you too, because then you feel like it's okay to cry. But yeah, I feel like for me, it's someone, or maybe not like someone, but like I think just being honest with my friends, someone I care about, be like, I'm not really feeling too good, and if they're a really good friend, they'll elaborate on it. I'll be like, oh, okay, I guess I can talk about like why now. But I feel like the only way to really start talking about that is recognizing that you are hurt, like what Derek has been saying, but also just letting yourself realize that it's okay for you to open up, and that it's also important for you to have people who you can trust to open up to. So I feel like something that you can do for yourself is kind of building up your support system. And the support system was like all the groups I was mentioning, like friends, family, maybe partner, but you don't need a partner. But if you do have one, that's chilling. Or like, therapist, like professional help, But yeah. Is there anything else you guys would like to say for this topic at all? I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to move back to the main room. The last question is, how can we be more patient with ourselves during stressful situations? Does this help with healing? And I can go first for this, because I keep on making you guys answer first. I feel like the best way I can like be more patient with myself is recognizing that I am human, and as a human, I have flaws and I have pains, and that it is okay for me to feel all those things, whether it's a positive or a negative emotion. all of it is valid. And just because I'm feeling sad or hurt doesn't make me any less valuable of a person at all. And when I am opening up to friends about it, I don't really believe in like burdening people, because if like these people really cared about you, and if you really cared about these people, then opening up about stuff like that shouldn't be any problem at all, and should even be necessary. Yeah, just kind of like recognizing that. Honestly, if you're cheesy like me, just listen to sad songs. just listen to quotes and just realizing, dude, if you want to listen to Adele, just go for it. It is okay. And I think it does help with healing.
Honestly, you gave a really good answer. I didn't know how to answer this question because I'm not that patient with myself, so I'm still learning that.
Okay, Kyla. That's why we have these talks, you know? So you kind of also recognize, shoot, what should I improve on myself? And I'll definitely, as your friend, try to help you with that. And also, like, I hope maybe if you come out to more of these, we can talk about these like different mental health topics and like how to improve over time. Because I think also the point of therapy and the point of like these discussions is to, number one, talk about it, but number two, like what to gain from it. You guys have any last thoughts before we go back to the main room?
I'll share something, unless someone else wants to go first, because I talk a lot. No? Okay. Patience is really difficult to cultivate. That's one of the harder things, I think. And it's like one of those things where you got to practice it regularly or it goes away. It's like your endurance, you know. You just have to keep practicing, looking to be patient, looking to take your time with things, and almost thinking about things as slow as possible is one of those ways. But definitely when it comes to patience, one of the key things to note is to, in my opinion, is to be non-judgmental. You know, don't try to tell yourself, oh, you know, I know I say like think about whether it's good or bad, but not in the way that I should do this or I would do that, or this is how it has to be or doesn't have to be. Just be, you know, very open about what you're feeling. Not open, but recognize what you're feeling, and don't be so quick to claim what's right and wrong. You know, you have to take in the whole situation, but it's hard to not be judgmental too. I know that I'm very judgmental. I'm just very judgmental, so I'm working on that.
At least you're honest. So you're working on that. It's okay. I honestly am too, myself. Like, but I definitely want to improve on it, and kind of like, you know, we recognize, like, even in this like small group right now, we're all kind of similar, to be honest. So it makes you realize we have something to work on, and that it's normal, and other people are also working on like the same thing, and that is okay. So our last activity will be to everyone. You can either unmute or you can like type in chat. We'd like to ask you to share like a positive affirmation to help heal our emotional hurts and harm. So basically, what is something that you want to do starting from today to help improve on yourself, or like emotional first aid? And I can start. For me, something that I want to do from now on is to recognize that it is okay for me to be hurt, as Derek has kindly taught us many times. And just recognize that I am human, and if I am feeling pain, so what? That is like just as important as being happy, and that is okay. And to recognize that I have to help myself before I have to, you know, before I am able to fully help others, because I do not put on that, you know, oxygen mask on myself first, I might pass out before I can put it on someone else. Thank you, Erin. And whoever would like to share, go ahead.
I think from my breakout room, what I want to do is I want to be like more patient with myself, and at the same time more like self-full. So this morning, like I was talking with Kashima, and she was talking about the difference between being selfish and self-full, and knowing when like you need that time and you need that space for yourself. And so it's okay to be selfish with yourself sometimes if it's going to be filling up your cup. And I definitely want to try to do that more going into the future, just acknowledging like, hey, I need something, and it's okay for me to like let people know that, hey, I need to step back for a day or two, or I need more time for this. just like that really like patience with myself and like emphasizing the importance of like my own existence, like my own being too, is really like awesome. It's really what all of you in my breakout room too like really emphasized. Thank you for that too. I'm just constantly growing, I'm constantly learning, and I just have to be patient. Like I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'm gonna like grow from like everything that like happens.
Go for it, Chanel.
I think for me, possibly showing myself the same love that I love showing my own friends. I loved caring for my friends, and I think it's time that I start doing that towards myself as well. So just practicing more on that and making sure that we do that. That I do that.
Saying Chanel, you took mine. But I just wanted to like bring up this saying like treat others how you want to be treated, but then turn it around and say treat yourself the way you treat others, which is basically what Chanel said. But yeah.
Sorry, I put the wrong hand up, but I meant to raise my hand. I think the breakout room was really good. I had a lot of nice conversations, a lot of really deep thoughts, a lot of good thoughts that I don't get the chance to be exposed to so often. So I guess an affirmation that I'd like to take into under my wing would definitely be to take mental health a little more seriously as a social thing, because I take it. I've made a point of taking it seriously for myself, but I never thought to I guess talk to other people about it and do it as a practice it socially, which actually has a lot of merit. I think this was a really great time for me.
Derek, I'm so happy you came here today, and I'm so happy to hear that, because that's like such a big step forward, knowing that you can reach outside of yourself too. Because honestly, I feel like we all feel like we have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders sometimes by ourselves, and then we're like, oh, we're gonna get through it by ourselves, but you don't have to be by yourself either. And I really love that that you're gonna, make that effort and look more into it socially. I'm great. Like growth, awesome.
All right, then we're gonna end for today. Thank you guys for coming out to Coffee Convo, and I really, really, really hope to see you guys at future ones.